I know God doesn't give us more than we can handle. I just wish He didn't trust me so much. Now, I know some people have an issue with that quote because it seems to imply that the person saying it believes they're doing it on their own. And I've never really understood that argument. I don't believe that God just gives us a bunch of stuff to deal with and then sits back to watch us handle it on our own. Let's rock. Are you walking through a storm that feels like it will never end? Do you wonder if life's storms have stolen the beauty from your life for good? You're in the right place. My name is Heather, and like you, I've been through a storm or two and wondered if life would ever be beautiful again. Here we share warriors' words, stories of discovering beauty after battles, and the worth in your wounds. Pick up your sword or boxing gloves and join the battle. Your words are powerful, my friends. Make them warrior words. Welcome, warriors. I'm interrupting my regular schedule this week for a little bit of a raw episode, as I am living out what I talk about on this podcast. Trauma, challenges, and storms are never one and done. The truth is, we encounter them throughout our lives. Some are more difficult, and others are milder. But they happen all the time. Hopefully, as we walk through more and more, learning as we go, we become more adept at handling the storms in our lives. The storms themselves don't necessarily become easier, but our courage, strength, and faith grow, and we learn where to turn. And maybe most importantly, to whom we should turn. So, with that said, let's start with this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad. I was honestly hoping that after having my ankle repaired in December that I'd have a break from medical issues for a while. Well, apparently that was not to be the case. So far this year, I've discovered an egg sensitivity out of the blue at my age. And let me tell you, substituting applesauce for eggs in baking, it doesn't work. It tastes different. I mean, it tastes decent, but it definitely acts different in the baking process. But then more GI issues started popping up, and I still have no idea what those are about. My primary care doc suggested a test that I really did not like: giving up cheese. I love cheese, but I was obedient and I did it. And so far, I've been off all cheese for about a month and a half as of this recording. But at least he didn't suggest that I remove all dairy from my diet. Oh, that would be hard with everything else I've also had to give up. But the problem with giving up cheese for the last, I don't know, 6-7 weeks or so, hasn't seemed to help. And in fact, I still have days when things feel worse. And it's just so confusing. One meal will be completely fine this week, but then the same meal next week will cause all sorts of problems. I can't figure it out. So I'm currently awaiting a call from the GI specialist. My primary care doc suggested that it might be IBS, but in looking at the symptoms, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. But I'm not a doctor. nor do I play one on this podcast. But sadly, that's not all. You gotta laugh, right? Um, so this week, I went back to that same primary care doctor, and he, in fact, even joked that he was going to start charging me rent if I kept coming back. He's a good listener, and he's a really good doctor. The other thing I like about him is that he gives me information and then allows me to make my own decisions. So this time, I'm sitting in his office because of something I noticed, but also something I dismissed. It wasn't until my son touched my arm in church one day and said, "Mom, you're shaking." So if the person who doesn't notice anything else about me can see it, I guess it's something I can no longer ignore. So I sat in this doctor's office for the evaluation of tremor. At my age, a Parkinson's diagnosis would be early. Now, of course, there's always exceptions. But for the most part, I'd still be a little young for that diagnosis. And while I was waiting for this appointment, in the days before, I did what we all do nowadays, and I consulted Dr. Google. I know, we probably shouldn't do that, but we all do it, right? Make me feel better. We all do it. But I do have some parameters when I do it. Like, I look at sites like the Mayo Clinic as opposed to Sally Smith's blog. And my apologies if your name is Sally Smith. But the bottom line is I try to only look at reputable sources. And one of the things I found was that sometimes tremor can show up years after completing chemo. And though it's still distasteful, it sounded better to me than Parkinson's. So my doctor comes in and I share what's been happening, and he does a couple of tests. And one of them made me laugh. He told me to look at him and stick my tongue out at him. So I got to be a playground meanie for a minute. But after I did it, he explained that it is possible for people to fake tremor in their hands, but it's nearly impossible to fake it in the tongue. Sadly, I didn't need to fake any of it. So I now have another diagnosis, essential tremor, and another referral to neurology. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that I'm now going to see a pain specialist for my neck and my middle back for something called dry needling. And to me, that sounds like a painful procedure for something that's supposed to manage my pain. But from what I understand, it's a similar concept to acupuncture. So we'll see about that. So the bottom line is I have a lot of medical stuff on my plate yet again. And honestly, it's enough to make me wonder why. To make me think of a quote attributed to Saint Mother Teresa. I know God doesn't give us more than we can handle. I just wish he didn't trust me so much. Now, I know some people have an issue with that quote because it seems to imply that the person saying it believes they're doing it on their own. But I've never really understood that argument. I don't believe that God just gives us a bunch of stuff to deal with and then sits back to watch us handle it on our own. One of my favorite verses is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And also Jesus says, apart from me, you can do nothing. So biblically, that explanation doesn't hold water. I don't think Mother Teresa or whoever originally said it meant that whatever trust God places in us, whatever God asks us to handle, that He expects us to do it without Him. And I think that's the beauty in all of this. Whenever somebody asks me what the theme of my podcast is, I tell them it's about beauty in suffering. It's about learning to discover the beauty that is either within your struggles and your storms, or about the beauty that you discover afterwards. Maybe something that came after you went through the struggle and beauty arose from that. So, since I always ask my guests what beauty they can find in their storms, it's my turn to answer that this week. Now, obviously, I don't have any beauty discovered after walking through the storms, but I'm trying to focus on the beauty I can see now. And so I can see beauty in the office of a doctor who listens to me, respects me, and makes me laugh in the midst of what can be a scary symptom. There's beauty in the love and attention from family members and friends. And there's beauty in knowing that Jesus is walking with me. No matter what any of these medical situations bring to my future, I know He is there. He may or may not cure any of it, but He will be right there, no matter what I may have to walk through. Oh, and one more piece of beauty. The fact that I can see these crosses and recognize that He is there and still say, Jesus, I trust in you. Now, I don't want to sit here and say that that is always easy or that I always do that. But there was a time in my life when I would not have even recognized any beauty or acknowledged or realized that Jesus was with me. And I probably many times would never have thought to say, Jesus, I trust in you. So all of that is so beautiful to me right now. And so I ask you, do you know that your Savior is with you always? Can you confidently say, Jesus, I trust in you as you walk through your storms? That's your something to think about this week. And I also ask, if you haven't left a review for the show, would you please take a minute and sign into your Apple account and leave a 5-star written review? It's super simple. Just scroll down to the ratings and review section, click 5 stars, and write a quick sentence or two about how the show or even a specific episode has impacted you. Thank you. So until we meet again, armor up, fight the good fight, seek beauty. and to make your words warrior words. God bless.